Daniel was tired of driving. The highway stretched endlessly, and the night felt heavier than usual. He had been on the road for hours, leaving behind the small town he grew up in. That town carried too many bad memories. His father was violent, his mother always silent. Daniel remembered hiding in the closet as a boy, listening to his father's footsteps in the hall, waiting for the shouting to begin. Those nights shaped him. He hated closed spaces, but also felt safer in them. Now, 32 years old, he was trying to start over. He worked in construction, a job that kept his hands busy, but his mind restless. On this night, the storm caught him unprepared. The rain came fast, the windshield wipers barely keeping up. The GPS lost its signal, and the road signs blurred under the water. That's when he saw it, the neon light flickering on the side of the road. Silver Pines Motel. The building looked abandoned from a distance. Only one light was on in the lobby. He pulled into the lot and noticed the other cars. All of them old, dusty, like they hadn't moved in years. Still, he told himself it was just a cheap motel. He had stayed in worse. Inside, the man at the counter barely spoke. His eyes were pale, his skin gray. He slid Daniel a key with the number 6 on it. The key was cold in his hand. Daniel carried his bag down the hall, each step echoing too loud against the walls. The room smelled of damp carpet and cigarette smoke. He placed his bag on the bed and checked the bathroom mirror. For a second, he thought he saw someone standing behind him. But when he turned, the room was empty. The TV turned on by itself, static filling the air. He unplugged it, but the noise didn't stop right away. Daniel tried to sleep, but the storm outside grew louder. At 3:17 a.m., he woke to knocking on his door. 3 knocks. Then silence. He waited, heart racing. Then the phone on the nightstand rang.
Daniel hesitated before answering. The old rotary phone buzzed angrily, like it had been waiting for him. He picked up the receiver, and at first there was nothing, just silence. Then came a whisper, low and stretched. "Don't stay in room 6. Daniel froze. His throat was dry. He tried to speak, but the line went dead. He told himself it was a prank. Maybe the man at the counter was playing games. But why? He opened the door, looked down the hallway. It was empty. No footsteps, no sound, just the faint flicker of the hallway lights. Back inside, he sat on the edge of the bed. Memories of his childhood crawled back. The phone calls. His father used to call the house just to breathe into the line before yelling for him. Daniel never forgot that sound, the heavy breathing that meant trouble. Now, decades later, the same fear returned, thick and real. At 3:33 a.m., the phone rang again. This time he let it ring. On the 5th ring, the TV switched on by itself, showing not static, but footage of the motel lobby. The screen flickered, and he saw himself checking in at the desk. Only, in the video, the man at the counter wasn't behind the desk. No one was. Daniel had been alone. The screen went black. The lights in his room flickered out. Then, another knock at the door. This time slower. 1 knock. A pause. Another knock.
By morning, the storm had passed. Daniel tried to convince himself it was all in his head. He packed his bag and headed to the lobby. But the desk was empty. No clerk, no sound of life, just the smell of damp wood. He rang the bell on the counter, no answer. That's when he noticed the door behind the counter was cracked open. Against his better judgment, he pushed it open. A narrow staircase led downward into the dark. The air grew colder with each step. The smell of mold mixed with something metallic. He pulled out his phone for light. At the bottom, he found a basement filled with old motel furniture, broken televisions, and stacks of guest logs. He picked one up. The names went back decades, but none after 1997. Then he saw his own name, Daniel Miller, Room 6, written in neat handwriting, dated yesterday. His stomach dropped. He had never signed anything. He flipped through the book and saw other names, each crossed out in red. Dozens of them. A sound came from the far corner. Breathing, heavy, raspy. He swung his light around but saw nothing. Then slowly, a figure moved out of the shadows. Its skin looked gray, its eyes pale, just like the man from the counter. Daniel stumbled backward, dropping the logbook. The figure didn't chase him. It only whispered, "Check out time." The lights in the basement burst all at once, leaving him in darkness. He scrambled up the stairs, slamming the door behind him. Back in the lobby, the clock on the wall ticked to exactly 3:17 p.m.
Daniel ran to his car. He shoved the key into the ignition, but the engine wouldn't start. The other cars in the lot still sat there, covered in dust. He wiped one of the windshields with his hand. Inside, a skeleton slumped over the steering wheel, jaw open in a silent scream. Panic surged through him. He turned back to the motel. The neon sign flickered. For a moment, it didn't say Silver Pines Motel. It said, "Forever Stay." Then it blinked back. He ran to the room to grab his bag, thinking maybe he was losing his mind. But when he opened the door to room 6, it wasn't the same room anymore. It was a copy of his childhood bedroom. The same closet, the same cracked wallpaper, the same bed where he used to hide from his father. The phone rang again. He picked it up with shaking hands. This time, the voice wasn't a whisper, it was his father's voice, cold and sharp. "You never left." The closet door creaked open. Inside, the pale figure from the basement stood waiting. Daniel dropped the phone and ran, but the hallway stretched longer than it should, like it would never end. Every door he passed was room 6. Every handle he grabbed was locked. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the motel walls. At exactly 3:17 again, the lights went out. When the power came back, the room was empty. Daniel's bag sat on the bed. The guest log in the basement had a new entry, crossed out in red, "Daniel Miller, checked out." And no one ever saw him again.